Well, this is interesting, guys. Kind of curious what my setup would look like on here. Trying to see if I can figure out how to use more than one deal at the same time. Of course, there's nobody here yet, so that's good. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Question is, will it let me do what I want to do? There's still nobody here, so that's good. I can sit here by myself and do what I want to do. Right, May? Right. 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 Now what are you doing? Silly girl. I'm going to try to move this over as far as I can, but I think this is about as good as it's going to get. I think. Yeah, I think so. I wonder if they can hear you at all. I wonder if they can hear you at all. What are you doing? Hmm? Don't want to do that. Okay, so maybe, just maybe, this is where I can see if anybody comes in. Maybe. Uh-oh. There's actually somebody in here. Oh my goodness. Now I have to perform for you all. Hello, one person. Don't know who you are. My name is Jennifer, and I live in Texas. And I was actually going to work on some knitting today, but I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. If I wanted to work on this or work on something else. So I'm glad you're here. Hope you enjoy whatever it is you see for the next few minutes. I don't know how long I'll be on here, but we're gonna find out and see if there's anything good to talk about. Feel free to pop in the chat if you had a good day, if you had a crappy day, if you had a okay day. Mine was not terrible. Work was kind of meh. Wasn't good, wasn't bad. Got a little bit done. So, I'm grateful for that. And I am kind of curious, the one person watching, is this you're just surfing Twitch, or are you somebody I know? And if you can hear a scratchy sounding cat in the background, that would be my cat May. especially when I'm in here talking to myself. She likes to come in here and pretend like I'm talking to her, or pretend like maybe that she's, you know, engaging me, so I don't sound like a crazy woman sitting in here talking to myself. Oh. Okay. Well, anyway, all right, so I'm going to do some knitting. This is a pattern called, well, let me rephrase that. It's a hat pattern. It's Nomadic Knits. If you're familiar with them at all, they do a pattern around every Valentine's Day called the Lonely Hearts Club. In the last couple of years, it's been hats. So I am doing the version with the wide brim to fold up. There's my little tail. I need to tuck that in a little bit better. But it's just a beanie. Along with it, though, there is a duplicate stitch heart pattern that you pin it at the end. So right now it is just stockinette. As you can see, I got the brim done, and I got to get in about 4 or 5.25 inches of stockinette before I start to do my decreases. And there's my yarn sock. So this is the yarn I'm using. It's if you're curious, this is the yarn. I was looking up this Dancing Leaf Farm. You can find them on Instagram. I just don't know if this colorway even still exists or not or anything. I know that they still make and sell yarn. But I think I got this at a local yarn shop around here somewhere, but like a long, long time ago. And it was just, I just like the colors. I mean, it's just a, a gray to brown to pink, to a little bit of magenta. But that's pretty much it. That's the colorway, and it seemed like a good sort of Valentine's Day colorway. And then the charm is Charmed and Dangerous, if you're familiar with them. They're out of Austin. Noelle makes all kinds of stitch markers and charms and stuff for knitters and crocheters, but I think this was actually a coffee set. Just a little coffee bean and then a little mocha coffee cups. So that's where I'm at. So this is just going to be some very, very basic, not that exciting knitting, but I hope you are doing well today. For posterity, if I do decide to air this later, because I think there was a lot of just at the beginning of me just not really paying attention and trying to set this thing up. Just thought I'd put it out there that today is Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. And it's been not a long day, but it's been a day. It's definitely been a day. I'm trying to get this where I can see it, and not just the camera, because if I can get going with this, that would be really, really nice. And my background, if you is just my cutting mat that I use when I sew and stuff. If you follow me at all, if you know who I am at all, if you follow me on Instagram, a lot of times the pictures that I post on social media have that background, and that's why. It's just a real thin, like, I want to say like an 1/8 or maybe even a 1/16 of an inch thick, that's on top of my craft table, just to keep my blade from cutting directly into the plastic top on my craft table, because it's not anything fancy, but it's also not anything very sturdy or stable or anything that could take take a lot of the abuse I think this cutting mat gets from my rotary cutter. So, and that's the thing with this channel. If I decide to continue to do this, I think that's probably what I'll do, is you guys will just follow me along, whatever crafty stuff I'm working on. Whether it's knitting, whether it's cross stitch. I almost thought about pulling out some cross stitch tonight, because I've got, if you're familiar with the cross stitch world at all, I'm participating in Whip Go, but unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but it's only the second week in February after all. But it's the second week in February, and I'm not, this time last month I had pretty much completed my January goals. And I know it's not a race, and I know it's not a you know, something that you have to just check off a box or whatever, but I did want to try to get my Whip Go stuff done. But with the for those of you who celebrate Valentine's Day, the Valentine's holiday, there's some other things that just I kind of wanted to do, so I kind of started a little bit on my Whip Go and then got sidetracked with some other stuff. So I'd like to get my 2 goals finished. I'm probably halfway done on one of them, but the other one I still probably have some a ways to go as far as how much stitching I still have to do. I don't have any finish goals as far as finishing patterns or anything like that, but I do have quite a bit of stitching to do on one project in order to get my Whip Go goal completed for February. But if you're familiar with cross stitch at all, it's not anything great. It's not anything that, you know, you have to just have it done by the end of the month. It's just something to give you, you know, something to focus on, a focus piece or two to focus on in February, or for each month if you so choose. So I would like to get back to finishing those by the end of the month. It's kind of funny because I'm so used to doing YouTube videos where you pre-record and you can kind of just ramble on and on and on and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. But then edit it out or edit it down to a simpler, easier deal. And this I find a little more, I don't know, struggle with it a little bit more, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to find words while I'm trying to knit. Apparently knitting and talking is not something that I can do. I'm not a walking and chew gum kind of person, apparently. So if there are lapses in my conversation with you all, that is probably why. Fortunately, there's no counting here. There's no stitches other than, you know, stockinette. Just round and round and round I go. So we'll see how far this goes on. I hope whoever is out there and watching, I hope that this is sort of entertaining, that you kind of feel like you're got something going on in the background to drown out whatever maybe silence you don't want to endure, or maybe you had a long day and you just need somebody to chill with you and tell you how their day went so you don't have to think about yours. I'm definitely one of those people where I will just put on YouTube or Twitch if somebody I know is going live, somebody that I like, and don't necessarily pay attention. I mean, I do pay attention to the conversation, but I don't necessarily engage in the chat, which I am bad about that. So I feel you, whoever's out there watching and not really saying much. But feel free. It's just kind of one of those things where you just, after a while, you kind of feel like especially when there are a lot of people in a chat room, you kind of like to let the conversation take its own road, take its own path. I mean, I contribute when I feel like I have something important I want to say, or something I feel like people can have as my own perspective on something. But most of the time I sit and just listen, because usually there are plenty of people in the room to kind of carry the conversation, and that kind of works for me pretty well. I'm kind of like that in real life and social situations too, whether it's back when we used to all work in offices and go and to the lunchroom together with our coworkers and talk about other things for 30 minutes or an hour while we ate our lunches. Usually I was the one that always just kind of sat there and let other people express their opinions, begin a conversation, carry a conversation. I was never one to be that person. Primarily just either because I was in a room full of people maybe that I couldn't relate to, or maybe I was in a room full of people that felt like I shouldn't say I'm not a social creature, but I am less of a social creature by nature. So I think a lot of people that carry on conversations in large groups, I think, do it because they desire that communication with others more than somebody like I do. So, and that's understandable. I mean, it takes all of us to make this crazy world go round, and I certainly understand that. But you get me one-on-one with somebody who, a close friend, somebody that actually has something interesting that they want to talk about, or maybe one or two people, my close, like my book club, there's only 4 of us total. That's about as big as the group will get before I may clam up more, because even in a group of 4, there's 3 other people to carry on a conversation quite easily. But those 4 people, I feel like we all equally care about each other's thoughts and opinions on things. And of course, because it's book club, we're sharing our perspectives on something specific that we all have in common, which is typically a book that we read. But in the case of engaging in just conversation about general topics or things that I'm interested in, I think sometimes people just, unless you have a mutual interest, or like I said, they have something that you are genuinely interested to hear more about. A lot of times I don't proactively engage in a conversation if I don't have to. And there have been plenty of social situations, you're standing in line at the grocery store, and somebody wants to strike up a conversation about, something you're wearing, or, something they notice on the magazine rack by the checkout, or something like that. And again, unless small talk makes me uncomfortable, and I know there are other people like that out there. Like, this to me seems kind of small talk-ish, but, I have a hard time engaging with people when it's about nothing important, nothing that I really want to carry on a conversation about, or anything that I feel like needs my attention. So, well, I know I had someone else pop in and then pop back out. I don't know what that was about, but I noticed this one viewer is still with me, so I appreciate that. I think I mentioned before, or maybe I didn't, I'm just kind of trying the Twitch thing out to see how I like it, and see what, if this allows me to focus on something like a project for a little while and get something done. and then I can engage with everybody. But I may not be on here that long if there's not much to say, not much to talk about, if things don't get very interesting here. Kind of funny talking about, not being one for small talk. I was just say part of that too is I feel like sometimes when you're having a conversation with someone, you're part of your obligations, the social contract of having a conversation with someone is holding their attention or their engagement with the conversation. And I don't feel like I do that very well, or I don't think I don't have much to contribute. I'm definitely one who would ask more questions than I would give answers, or give feedback or input to a conversation. So something like this is very, very new to me and very I don't know. I don't know if I like it yet. That's why I'm trying it out. Have to try new things, right? Have to try new things. Again, anybody who joins me, I appreciate you coming on. I'm just working on a knitted hat pattern right now, just some basic stockinette stitch and a stash yarn that I had. I'm glad you're here. Feel free, if you are so inclined, to jump on the chat. If not, that is quite all right too. I was just talking about how on social media live events like this, I'm not much of a chatter. I am always kind of curious though when people do show up. I never pay attention when I go into other people's chat rooms, and I don't engage ever. Like I just kind of, I know there are a lot of lurkers out there. I'm one of them for sure. I always kind of wonder, and this being my first time of doing this on Twitch, always kind of curious if the person, like all I can see is the number of viewers, but I can't see who they are. I guess unless they make themselves known, which that's quite all right. I don't mind that at all. And I keep going out of frame, guys. I'm so sorry. Not that you do or don't want to see just some basic stitching or knitting. No, it's definitely one of those things where, and I'm trying to find a comfortable angle for the most part, as far as something where my wrists don't bother me too terribly much. I will definitely have to play around with this off feed to see what I like more. The only tripod I've got for my phone is this one, and I was gonna set it up actually on the table, but I don't think I want to do that. I know some people have clamp table clamps for their equipment, so I may have to invest in something like that. And I don't know, I hope I can be heard. I'm just using the external mic on my device, so I really don't know if you guys can hear me okay. And of course, this is just trying this out to see what it's like. So when it's over, I'll go back and listen to it and see if it's worth leaving behind for anybody to watch later. Just trying to decide. I am appreciating, though, I've got my iPad open, and I think it's helping me keep track of this a little bit better as far as time and that kind of thing. Text message. And if you heard that, that was text message on my phone because I didn't think to put it on mute. So, go figure. So, I hope you guys all appreciated that notification. All the things we have to remember to do when we're streaming live. So I am kind of curious if anybody's, the people that are out there, for those of you who are watching, is there anything you would like to talk about? Pretty up to date with pop culture, TV, movies. There's a new Taika Waititi TV show coming out on HBO Max that looks really funny, really good about, and I don't know the gentleman's name, I'd have to look it up, but I guess it's about someone who kind of gave up their life, I'm gonna say in Europe somewhere, but maybe not, maybe it was here in the US, I don't know, but I'm gonna say Europe just because of the time frame, but gave up their life to become a pirate. And they were kind of, from what you can kind of tell from the trailer, he appears, I mean, based on costuming and that kind of stuff, as an aristocratic type. And I guess he just finds the pirate life very, romanticizes it and decides that's what he wants to do. And so I saw the trailer for it for the first time today. Thought it looked very funny, and I love Taika Waititi's sense of humor. If you aren't that familiar with his work, he's a New Zealand writer-director, but he did Thor Ragnarok, which is like one of my all-time favorite movies. I will always turn on Ragnarok if it's on to watch, especially if I need something to put me in a good mood or make me laugh or take my mind off of things. But he also did the Jojo Rabbit. That's his movie, but he also, if you're familiar with the movie at all and the premise, he was the little boy's imaginary friend. So that's, he also writes the current, I don't think he wrote the movie, but I think he helps write the current TV show version of What We Do in the Shadows, which is the Matt Berry vampire show on Hulu and FX. So that's kind of his sense of humor. So this pirate show looks really, really, really funny. But along with that on HBO Max, I've been watching The Gilded Age, which is the Julian Fellows who wrote Downton Abbey. It's kind of, I don't think it's a similar time, but sort of. But the American, basically during the Vanderbilts and Rockefellers, that time period in Manhattan and New York City, and it has Christine Baranski, which I absolutely love. And after watching Downton, I can tell that her character very much, I'm sure when Gillian Fellows was writing the script, very much reminds me of the grandmother in Downton. I can't think of her name, but very much just that wit, Maggie Smith's character. That same just kind of sardonic, sarcastic, upper level, highbrow, dialogue. So that's not terrible. I was going to say, I've seen quite a few people actually talk about how they don't, after watching Downton, that they've kind of been disappointed by The Gilded Age. And I don't know why. I don't know what they thought they were getting. To me, it should be its own show in its own right. It shouldn't be compared to the other in any way. I can't imagine, but unless he plans on doing any like crossover, character stuff, I just don't see that happening. So I kind of feel like it should stand on its own. Like it shouldn't be compared to Downton. And other than, like I said, a bit of the dialogue, writing style, that kind of thing, and the basic cast of characters, having in this case, in Downton, it was, the people who live there and then the help. Well, that's kind of how it is in the Gilded Age too. It's Christine Baranski and, goodness gracious, I can't think of her name from Sex and the City, but, two sisters who are well-to-do, well off, have money, come from money, and then their house staff. So you do have that similar kind of two paths or two groups of people that you kind of follow in each episode, so that's kind of interesting. But other than that, it's on its own. I think it's a decent decent TV show, so I'll keep watching it. It's not terrible. And it seems like HBO is really trying to step it up with their own unique programming that they want to put only on, especially on the HBO Max app, on that streaming service, not necessarily stuff that's actually on HBO, the channel. Trying to think what else I've seen recently that was any good outside of HBO. Unfortunately, I'm also the kind of person that I go to bed every night watching reruns of either The X-Files or House or something, something comforting to watch before bed, because it's nothing I have to think about, and even though I may have watched those shows 1,000 times, they're still very comforting in their predictability, and they're you like certain characters or you like certain actors, and you find yourself just continuing to watch the same programs over and over. Even though I will say it's kind of funny with the X-Files, I guess I get to about season 8 when David Duchovny left, and then I kind of don't want to watch anymore. So then I go back and start over and watch from season 1 or season 2. Sometimes the season 1 stuff is kind of, I don't want to say cringy, but real you can tell everybody's trying to find their footing, like, just, I don't know, they kind of really picked up speed with the dialogue and the storylines and stuff in season 2. But it is kind of interesting being someone as old as I am, who remembers a time when, the cable box was a push button device on the top of a TV. If you wanted to change the channel, you had to get up and change the channel. It's funny to see how shows like The X-Files, for instance, may have only been on, well, it seems like a long time. 8 or 9 seasons. I think season 10 is the most recent one that they kind of came back here just in the last couple of years and released. But, those first few seasons are really long. I mean, it's amazing how even a show like that was I think with commercials when it was on Fox or whatever it was on back then, I think it was an hour-long, episode, but they still did, I don't know if it's 13. It had to have been more than 13. It seems like some of those seasons it went on into like I don't want to say the 20s. That sounds ridiculous, but maybe I'm right. I don't know. But it's amazing how long, how many shows and how many episodes of shows like that back then that people did. Back when, I guess, writing was much more original but I mean, I say that, but even like, something like The Simpsons that's been on for, decades now, that amazes me too, but I think The Simpsons is kind of unique in that they can keep it topical, so they can derive or write scripts based on what's going on in the world, either very acutely or just kind of very loosely based on, political situations, environmental situations, whatever it is, and touch on topics in an episode. So they have a vast range of information that they can, or, vast range of topics that they can write about in their episodes. But try to think if there's anything else new. The new Doctor Strange movie looked good. If anybody watched the Super Bowl, I think they aired the trailer for that on there. Marvel's one of those things where I don't think they can do any wrong, but Doctor Strange, I worry that, like Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie to me was so unique and clever and well written that the second one kind of was less than. So I do kind of worry that the second Doctor Strange movie is going to not have as much of a wow factor to me as the first one did. But I will probably, I will definitely see it. I was about to say I will probably go see it at the theaters, but that all is pandemic based. But we have like Disney Plus, so I'll definitely check it out, at least on there once it comes out. And speaking of Disney Plus, if anybody has that, did start watching the first season of the Book of Boba Fett, which seems pretty good. I need to go back though and rewatch it though, because I think when I had it on, I either got interrupted or I think I started it maybe while in the process of maybe I was getting ready to fix a meal for dinner, and so I missed, kind of was not as engaged as I should have been, so I'll probably start that over, but I definitely want to continue watching that. That seems really, really good. I'm trying to think what else, honestly. I would appreciate I know people who like to just lurk on these videos, so I don't want to put any pressure on anybody, but I wouldn't mind any kind of engagement, just to tell me if you can hear me, tell me if I'm boring the crap out of you, talk about something else, tell you about, podcasts I listen to, or interviews I saw, or heck, I'll talk about the Super Bowl. I mean, I watched it. I always watch it for the commercials and for the halftime show, which I thought was awesome. Awesome. But love music. Love all kinds of music, so I'd go there if you wanted me to. Trying to think what else people like to talk about on these things. I'm trying to decide. So part of me doing this today was I'm trying to get I got my Patreon up, and I think I'm going to kind of tie it in with all my other social media, which includes my YouTube, and if I can figure it out, I might even post this over on my YouTube channel eventually. I was trying to decide, because I have a lot of little like things that I've done knitting and cross stitch wise that I've just, I want to say pulled out of my head, because that's not entirely true. In a lot of cases I've gotten inspiration from, like I have ideas, but I kind of want to draw from, or I do draw from other things. So knitting's the perfect example. I have actually designed a pattern for a yarn, a small hand-dyed independent yarn seller. But that was over a couple of years ago, and it's no longer, I mean, if you really wanted it, I need to go back and do some, need to do some editing. That was my phone again, sorry. Because I need to change some things up. I've since changed up the pattern and stuff, and I need to go back and fix it. But it was a pattern for a pair of leg warmers that could also be like boot cuffs if you didn't want to do the full leg, lower leg pattern, just do a short boot cuff. So I have done that, but a lot of what I do, if I'm not like this, just knitting a pattern that somebody else has designed. One thing like I've just started working on, or I started it right before Christmas thinking it was going to be a Christmas gift, but the the knitting is a little more cumbersome. I'm learning about myself that I am a so they talk about in the knitting world whether or not you're a process knitter or you're a project knitter. I think I'm more of a project knitter. I do enjoy the process, and usually when I pick knitting up, it's because, like this, for instance, is very just soothing. Counting the stitches to me is very meditative. If I can sit here and knit on something for, even if it's just 30 minutes, like during my lunch break at work, or while I'm watching something on TV, and especially something as I don't want to say mindless, but as complicated as this. Is that a word? Uncomplicated? It does provide some mental relief, some mental pressure, just like it reduces my anxiety, reduces my depression a little bit, gets my mind off of things that I'm worried about, from the day or from work. But in the process of knitting, I come up with ideas for other things that I want to do as well. So back to, I started designing this pattern for someone in my family that I started knitting it, and I get to where if a project is very large, and in this case it kind of is, it's not the one I'm knitting on right now, but the project I'm also working on behind the scenes, I knew that they would appreciate one of those like lap blanket / like snuggie, something that they could pull up over their legs, but it's like a sack. And I also know this person well enough to know that, most of them out there that you see are the crochet or knitted mermaid's tails for little girls. And they've come out some other one, honestly, those mermaid's tails could be for anybody. They could be for boys or girls. If boys want to be mermaids too, that's absolutely fine. But anyway, usually they're designed though for a juvenile audience, a teenager, young kid. And the person that I was knitting this for, I was using burlap blanket, which if you're familiar with that yarn at all, is kind of bulky. And I was just using stuff that I had in my stash. And I thought, well, what if you just did this, because it's basically just a big, like a big tube. So I kind of got the idea of looking around like Patton's Yarn, which is also Yarnspirations. They have a lot of free patterns on their website. So I got to looking around, trying to find something, and they do Bernat yarn as well. So I was trying to look and see what they had. And they had a couple of things. Some of them look like watermelon slices and pizza slices and stuff like that. I was like, okay, well, these are obviously meant for people that just want something fun and funky. And I'm like, I just want something simple. And I wanted something that you could make basically my design idea was that you could make it for any sized person just based on some simple math. And the start of it would pretty much be the same regardless of the individual you were knitting for. I think the only exception might be is if you were making one for like a really small child or a toddler or a baby or something, you'd probably want to scale it down a bit. But to me, just like this hat, if all you're doing is knitting in the round, just knitting a tube, that's kind of what I started doing. Well, it was going to be a gift around the holidays. And I think I got the idea because I couldn't think of anything else that I wanted to get for this person. And I was not running out of time, but you know how you are, the closer it gets to like, Halloween in October, November, December, you're like, okay, I gotta start. If I'm going to start knitting or making things for people for the holidays, you got to start, you really need to start, like now for, like this Christmas or this, December. But in most cases, I don't usually start thinking about gift knitting until probably after the summer's over in the fall. And so, unfortunately, in this particular case, once I had this idea down and started it, before I knew it, it was November, and then it was December, and that was and I'd barely even gotten started. I mean, I've gotten started on it, don't get me wrong. It's just, it's going to take, it's not a hat. I mean, it's a big, huge, sack that you basically pull up, or, around your lap. So it's going to take a while, despite using bulky yarn. So anyway, so I have ideas like that I put down, general design elements, pen to paper, and then try to work out the actual mechanics of it, actual knitting of it. And then I think, well, I wonder if anybody else would like this. So I started my Patreon page in hopes of doing just that, providing people, like, if they would like access to, very simple, but, knitting patterns that maybe they find useful for themselves or other people in their family. Same with cross stitch. I've designed a few small cross stitch patterns, as gifts for people that were specifically, meant, for them in mind. I mean, they're very, very, very specifically themed. Something that is meant to be gifted to a recipient because you know them that well, you know them, you have a very close relationship. But so I thought, well, maybe, people would like access to these for free, or, for a small fee, being a patron. And then same with sewing. Like, occasionally I come up with sewing ways, shortcuts. Like, so the first thing that is on my Patreon, like right now, is I've got, and it's free to everyone, and it's just a link, really. It's a link to a video that I put on YouTube sometime last year, but it was a do-it-yourself on how to make your own floss drops or thread drops for your cross stitch or embroidery floss. Not everybody, if you're a cross stitcher, not everybody uses the bobbins. It's become really popular lately to use floss drops. I was trying to think, I've got something nearby I can kind of show you, but I don't have anything I can get my hands on without just completely throwing everything kind of crazy. Hold on a second. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So like this. All of these are all floss drops that I've done myself. And you can see they're all different sizes and they're all made different ways. And all of these, I think, I made with cardstock. Like, you get the paper pads at like Michael's or Joann's that have the different cardstock. So, and you can kind of see they're themed. They're like cats and dogs and you know, like the colors are supposed to, like that one says meow on it. So anyways, so I have a video, but in that particular video, I show how, well, I've got paper punches, so I have punches that specifically make those tag shaped little, you know, pieces of paper, you know, punching those pieces of paper out. But then also I have a larger punch that I've bought since. But in that particular video, because I keep pretty much every greeting card that's ever given to me, I had a bunch of old, like, you know, like when you work at jobs around the holidays, everybody gives everybody, you know, Christmas cards or greeting cards, or when it's your birthday, you know, they give you birthday cards. So I had a bunch of those. Well, and it just so happened that here, I think this past weekend, as a matter of fact, I went through a bunch more of them and just got rid of all the ones that had no, you know, like I save a lot of them for the sentimental value. So like a lot of them, you know, went back in the cabinet that were, you know, from grandma or from, you know, elderly relatives or from parents or siblings or something like that. But all the coworkers I couldn't remember, you know, from old jobs and stuff like that, a lot of times, the card still has really cute, small graphics on it that come out really well on those floss cards. So I ended up cutting, I don't know how many hundreds of, I won't be needing floss drops for a while. I just cut so many of those cards up. But the original video that I made on YouTube, I basically posted on Patreon too. I dumped it out there just to kind of see if anybody, you know, would be interested in that as well. And I know all these things take time, so I literally just put that first posting, and it was public. It was free to everyone because I knew it was accessible on YouTube for free as well. You know, as long as you don't mind sitting through videos at the beginning and at the end that you can't control, because, you know, YouTube is just, it is what it is. But anyway, so I put that video out there, just to see if I got a bite. But like I said, I'd like to use that platform, and maybe even this one, to share some of the things that I've learned, some of the things I'm working on, behind the scenes. And then, like I said, if there are things that I want to, maybe design for actual public use, it gives me a place to kind of give first dibs to people who are willing to support my endeavor, so to speak. And I can't believe I'm looking at the stream manager on my other device that I've got running in the background here, and I can't believe I've actually been on here for almost an hour. So that means I've literally been sitting here talking for an hour. That's nuts. Well, I know occasionally I get a second viewer from time to time, but if this has been the one viewer, the same one viewer this entire time, I really do appreciate it. I do want to work out the kinks on this, because this really is kind of nice being able to sit here and do this for about an hour. Actually get some of my hat done. I think I only have probably, if I had maybe 2 more hours to devote to this, it would be done, which would be awesome. And I certainly wouldn't mind coming back on here and bringing y'all along for the ride. This is actually talking while doing this has been kind of interesting. It's definitely been a practice in you know, getting my brain to function, because I haven't been to a sit and knit in like a really long time. I know the ladies that are in the area that host those are still doing it on I want to say Thursday nights, but like we had bad weather a couple of weeks ago, so it got canceled, and I don't know how many people actually, even with COVID still kind of being a pain in the rear, I don't know how many people are actually still going to those things. I kind of really do wish that I know those same group of folks want to get out and get in public and get out of their house because they've all got kids and lives and work and jobs and whatever, and unfortunately, I'm not a person that really needs that as much. I enjoy the social interactions with the people that I care about, and I definitely love spending time with like-minded individuals who are working on similar projects or wanting to engage in similar activities, book club, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely one of those deals where I wish I could find more, or a knitting, or even one knitting group of people that wouldn't mind doing this over social media, over Zoom, over Twitch, over YouTube, over, I don't know, Instagram Live maybe. So I appreciate those who have come and gone today. And if the one person that's been watching has been hanging out all this time, I really do appreciate you hanging in there. I hope that my nasally voice isn't too annoying, and that whatever I've been talking about has been, I don't want to say thought-provoking, because it certainly hasn't provoked any kind of serious conversation. But hopefully it's provided some engagement for you that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have had for the last 57 minutes. I'm going to try to get to the end of this round, and then I need to measure and see where I'm at so I know how many. I think I counted earlier, and I've already forgotten my numbers, honestly. But I want to say, for some reason, the number 36 sticks in my head. The 36 rows is how many I needed to get to 5 inches. So a little, and then another quarter. So I'm going to measure it here in a minute. Usually what I do is I measure, and then because I was like at 2.5, I think, when I counted before earlier. And for some reason, like I said, doubling what I assume was, I counted to 18. Doubling that would have gotten me to 5 inches. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to measure here in a minute and kind of see if I can tell. And if you heard that, that's one of the many jokers that like to drive up and down the street. Motorcycles, little souped up little sports cars, whatever it is, and drive up and down the street like nobody's business. It's a residential neighborhood, yet somehow they feel like they should be doing 50, 55, I don't know what it is. And sometimes I think it's not even our street, it's people, like there's a main thoroughfare just, a block from our house, and so sometimes I think maybe that's what it is too, is they're just that loud that we can hear them all the way over here. But I don't know if that's true or not. So, okay, well, I don't know how many rows I actually got in. I probably should have counted before I started. But hopefully, I got a little bit more done. I was going to get one of my little tape measures here and see. Like I said, I know I was at 2 inches before. Oh, I think this one's not a good one. Hold on a second, guys. For some reason, does anybody else, I know there's only one of you out there, but thank you for engaging anyway, or, being here. But I'm kind of curious if anyone has ever run into the situation where, like, I bought this one, see, I will use my cutting mat as a way to test whether or not the inches are accurate. But a couple of these tape measures I've gotten have been, inexpensive, like freebies and something, and they were not true inches. And it really kind of bothers me that, people get away with that kind of stuff and don't get called out for it. Like I bought a punch. See, I'm now at 3.5 inches. That's not bad. So I think I knitted an inch just sitting here talking to you guys. So thank y'all for being here. All y'all coming and going. So yeah, another 1.5 inches plus, like I said, I think another 1/4 inch after that. But I bought a large hole punch too. Same thing, or not hole punch, tag punch. And the description said that the tags would be 3.5 inches, which is what I was looking for. I was looking for that exact measurement, but when you punch the tags, they are not. I think they're 3 inches, and it kind of burned me a little bit because, first of all, it's not right. I mean, the measurement's not right, but at the same time, if I'm looking for something that's a specific size, I need it to be a specific size. And nothing else I could find. Everything else that I found for purchase, shopping online and even in stores, have all been 3-inch tags. 3 inch, 3 inch, 3 inch. So it really kind of bothered me that they tried to sell it as a 3.5 inch tag, and it was not. So, but I'm using it. I mean, the difference between 3 and 3.5 inches for what I needed it for, which was more floss drops, is not that big of a deal to me personally. But when you are selling something, I'd like you to have your dimensions right. And I keep wanting to go out and leave a review, but I'm just to let others know that, hey, if you're buying this because it's a specific size, don't waste your time because it's not accurate. But it will only benefit the people that are actually looking for it. So I think this is it. I'm a little over an hour and 2 minutes. I really appreciate whoever's been sitting here. If you've been the same person sitting here the whole time watching me knit, I really appreciate it. Yeah, so this will be my hat. Just like I said, I got a couple more inches to do. And then, of course, folded brim. And that's what it'll look like. And I got to pick a pom-pom color, and I'll probably put a tag on it too, a little, homemade tag. It'll probably be for me. I don't think, sometimes I knit hats, and then either, like last year's Lonely Hearts Club hat I knit was, I think it was like a bulky weight yarn, and it ended up, for whatever reason, I don't know if my gauge was off, or I ended up using, maybe I should have gone down a needle size or something, but the first hat I knit was huge. But it was great because I have a friend, a really, really close personal friend, who has the hardest time finding knit hats, or any kind of hats really, because their head is so big and their hair is really thick. And so last year, fortunately, I had so much of that bulky yarn that I was using, that when I got finished with the first one and I realized how large it was, I was like, this is going to be a great gift. And they totally appreciate it, because I gave it to them. I'm going to say I sent it to them around the holidays this year. So I knitted the Lonely Hearts Club hat from last Valentine's Day, and then they got it this past Christmas. See, that's what you do, folks. If you're knitting gifts, you start now for gifts this Christmas, or holidays, at the end of the year. So, whatever it is you celebrate, start 10 months out. If it's a birthday, start 10 months out. But yeah, so this one I think is going to fit just fine. I mean, this is that's the 8-inch mark. That's the 14-inch mark. So that's 6 inches, but doubled, right? And seriously, that's 6 to 15 right there. So that's 18 inches stretched. I mean, you could probably get even another inch out of it. So this is going to be plenty snug enough for me. And I like these colors. I mean, I buy yarn because it's to my taste. So this definitely be a hat for me. But if it goes well, And the other nice thing was I was looking for something. So this is a DK pattern. This actually isn't fingering or sock weight. This is the next, weight up. And so I've got quite a bit of DK that I don't know why, but I just have like one skein. Like I said, I think I bought this at a local yarn store, and I don't know what I thought I was going to do with it, but I just like this kind of, it kind of reminds me of Neapolitan ice cream or something, but I like the, the colors, the gradient or whatever, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I like patterns like this where basically I'm definitely going to have plenty left over. I might actually be able to get, I was looking at this, speaking of designing, patterns. This to me was a perfect like ear warmer, like headband size. So I thought if I had enough left over, I might actually see if I can just basically knit this until I have just enough yarn left to cast off, and see if I can make a second, just a headband, because I wear my hair in ponytails a lot, up, not down like at the nape of my neck, but up on the crown of my head. And I thought that would make just a really good ear warmer, if I've got enough left over. And that's the other thing I'm trying to be more cognizant of too, is trying to use all the yarn that I have. If I've got a scrappy blanket that is meant for either DK or holding two fingering strands, holding them double. So every time I finish a project like this, I always try to knit at least one little, it's called the Northeasterly blanket, but it's got little chevrons. So I try to knit at least one chevron out of any scrap yarn I have left over. So if I get, what I might do is get that little chevron in, because it's literally like, I want to say like 12 rows. It's really, really quick. And then whatever I have left, go back and use basically the rest of it to do a headband to the end. And what would be really cool is, so this pattern, I think I mentioned at the beginning, but since we're at the end of the video, I'll mention it again. It's just a straight stockinette pattern after you do your ribbing. And the ribbing I'm doing is not the ribbing that was recommended in the pattern, because the suggested stitch used for the purl I wasn't as familiar with, and I thought in reading I knew what they were asking me to do, but I wasn't sure. And then of course when I looked at a tutorial online, it was, but I'd already started. I was already like 10 rows in, and I thought, screw it, I'm fine with a regular just 1x1 rib stitch. So I was okay with that. So the rest of that has just straight up stockinette, and then you do your crown decreases to finish it off. But the key with this one is then you go back and duplicate stitch. It's kind of like embroidery or cross stitch over, and there's like a big heart and then like a little heart. And so that's the next thing I've got to figure out, is because I need to have a yarn that's contrasty enough that it'll stick out, but also that it won't clash too badly. So I'm pretty positive I'm gonna go bright. What I can't decide though is, do I want to go contrasty like lime green or teal, or do I just want to go like hot pink, something that's at least within this color gradient, or like just a really pale gray, or pale, or even a glittery. I know I've got some Stellina yarn too, but I've got to find something this DK, because otherwise what I'll probably have to do is find fingering yarn and hold it double to do those duplicate stitches, which that wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I need to look and see what's in my stash. So anyway, so that's what I'm working on. Again, it's Nomadic Knits. I think they have, their website, and it's called the Lonely Hearts Club hat. And like I said, they do it every year, slightly different pattern. Last year it was basically all stockinette, but you had inset hearts every so often in pearl stitches, so they kind of stood out. So it was kind of like a offset, pattern. So it would not have worked good with this yarn necessarily, but the yarn that I picked had a lot less speckle, a lot less variation to it. So they looked really cute last year. So I'm going to thank you again one more time. It's been 10 minutes since I thanked you the last time, but thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll be back maybe in the next day or two, and we'll try this again. Twitch is definitely interesting. I just have to get used to using it. So I appreciate you. I hope you find something else to watch, and you guys have a good night, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.